Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, across all platforms to the Gaming Tangents Podcast. Woo! Woo! Yeah, baby. It's the Gaming Tangents Podcast.
What makes you say that?
It's episode 43, so at this point, just kind of used to it, I guess.
Yep.
It's become somewhat of a tradition.
For our 43rd episode, folks, we are going to do this entire podcast in musical form.
So get your ears ready, because it's gonna be a feast for the senses. I'm just kidding. It's just a podcast where we talk about gaming's past, present, and future and do our best to stay on topic. I'm Menji.
I'm Maverick. We are going to go ahead and you are going to go sing the entire thing while I describe everything you're doing. For example, you have your top hat and cane ready.
Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. It's a podcast at the very least. Since you can't see all these wonderful dance moves, my fast tapping action, at least you can hear my sultry tones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
How's it going, man? How does it feel to be in a post-Switch world?
Post-Switch world?
I guess it's still a pre-Switch world, but I don't know. We're using the word post all differently now since, Friday.
Oh, well,
even though I always understood post to mean after, but whatever.
I say we're in a pre-Switch world right now. So that...
Most people that speak English would agree with you.
Yeah. That inaugural moment will come on March 3rd.
That inaugural moment. Yes.
Yes.
Be the post-Switch world. How's it going, though? How you been? What's doing stuff? It's good. It's good. Yeah. Doing good. Yeah.
I've been on vacation this week and I've been enjoying it.
Still?
Saw Moana for the second time this week. What do you mean still?
You were on vacation last week too.
No, I was not on vacation last week. I did the podcast in the middle of this week. So, there's that.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That did not happen. There's no way you can prove it. You, sir, are a phony.
A phony. You're such a phony.
Oh, man. Wait. So you saw Moana again? Did you see Moana again already? Wait, since we recorded, you saw it again?
Probably. I probably saw it the day before we recorded. I just didn't mention it.
You might have. I think you did.
But I didn't mention it on the podcast.
I don't know about that. Better than Frozen. Those are the words he used. And then we got all sorts of hate mail.
Well, the first time I saw it was with my son. He wanted to see it. We were supposed to go with my girlfriend, but she fell ill. So it was just me and my son. And then this week I went to go see it with my girlfriend, and she loved it. And the one complaint everybody has, and I can agree with them, is not enough Pua.
This is a family show, I think.
The pig. There's not enough pig.
Oh, not enough pig, of course.
Right.
I think we've already found the title for our show. Not enough Pua.
There you go.
So not much gaming for you, huh? Anything gaming? What? Did you get the patch? Did you quit smoking?
No, I have not.
Oh.
Yeah, I have not quit smoking.
Did you get the patch for King of Fighters?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I actually have not done that yet.
Ouch. For all your King of Fighters talk.
Well, I haven't been home much this week. The night we did the other podcast, I was only here literally less than 24 hours before I left again.
This is the dedication, man. You came just for the podcast. We appreciate it, quite honestly. That's just
no problem.
It's admirable. Thank you so much.
I was gonna do it on location, but the internet there is kind of finicky, so
on location
I
for King
thought
of
it was
Fighters?
best we do it here. No, for the podcast.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I've played some stuff this week.
What stuff did you play?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I finally got to try the Resident Evil 7 demo.
How'd that go?
Yeah. That game.
In what way?
I was just freaked out the whole time.
Isn't the environment like just creepy?
It's funny because nothing happens, and yet you're afraid to take a step. Like, you don't want to go anywhere. Like, bravo, Capcom. If the rest of the game is like this,
way to take it back.
Bravo. They're bringing it back. Just take it back to Resident Evil. We're taking it back.
Well, haven't you seen the previews for like because they don't show too much, but something is up with the family in that game.
I mean, obviously, no. I've seen the dinner scene, and obviously the E3 trailer that came out before that. So I've seen that. So the part that happens at the end of the demo, I already knew about that from one of the teasers. But everything else, just like the ambiance that they've managed to make in that game is amazing. Like, not even so much the way it looks as the audio. Because you're creeping around this house, trying not to get out, and the whole time you're hearing movement outside the windows. You're hearing movement that sounds like it's upstairs from you. Sometimes you hear movement that sounds like it's just on the other side of the wall from you, and you don't want to go anywhere. If I just stay here, will I be safe? But it's a game. You got to do stuff. But I was just like on pins and needles the whole time, and then it ended, and I got the bad ending, so I actually got to go back and do it again.
Oh yeah, same here. I gotta go through the whole thing and figure it out.
I didn't go through the whole house. I think it's probably part of the problem. Because I just want to get out of there as fast as possible.
Because that was my problem. Is that when I went through it, I was like trying to find different ways to go. Oh, and I just couldn't. But
there's an upstairs. One thing I noticed. I didn't go upstairs at all. So that's
wait, you didn't?
I was like, no, hell no. I ain't going up there. I think I'll be less scared the second time I go through. But the first time I was like, no, there's a red light up there? I'm staying down here.
No, you do want to go through there. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. I won't tell you anything more.
I plan to next time, but that first time wasn't going to.
Now, did you find the ghosts in the video portion?
Ghosts.
You did not. Like when you play through the video portion, like when you're watching the video cassette, if you look at certain angles at certain points in the game, you actually can see like a ghost in the background. But I don't know how to trigger them. I've only caught one ghost. Like, apparently she's supposed to appear a couple of times.
Does it affect the story? Like, does your character realize that it sees it?
I don't remember.
Because that would be dumb if they didn't, because the whole point they're in the house is because they're paranormal. They're doing a paranormal show, aren't they? Or they're trying to start one, it sounds like.
I think he maybe gasped, but again, I'm not 100% sure because I only went through it once, and when it happened while the guys were speaking to each other.
Oh, right.
So, because it was the first one is outside of the house. So.
Oh, jeez. All right.
You have to turn. Yeah, you have to turn at a certain angle, but then apparently there's multiple times where you can see the ghost throughout that videotape.
Oh man. It's so freaky, but I'm so excited. Right. I've actually found a place for it pretty cheap to pre-order. I'm not gonna say where right now, just because I don't want them to run out. And so I'm really just like, do I make a case for this game? Because this is the thing, when you got a family, you got finances, you got to make a case for, things like video games. They don't make it to the top of your budget anymore after certain life events.
Like a family game. So.
Right, especially when it's a game that's just for me.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.
I showed. This isn't Resident Evil related, but sort of, kind of. I don't know if I mentioned it in my previous podcast or not, but I showed my girlfriend PT or the Silent Hills demo,
right?
And it freaked her out pretty bad.
Good. Very nice.
Okay, it's been a while since I played with someone who got scared of this game.
Everyone else is so used to it.
At this point, even though sometimes it'll freak me out, just because the environment in that hallway, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy.
Nice. I also finally accomplished something else that was 10 years in the making. And I finally accomplished it this week. Huh? You were close.
You finished Parasite Eve?
Dude, I started Parasite Eve way more than 10 years ago.
I know. Besides, that's me.
I don't remember getting that far into it. You're close, though. I did finish something.
Okay.
I finished the Simpsons game.
Really? Holy cow, I forgot that was even a thing.
Me too. And I had some spare time in the evening one night, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to finish a game tonight. God damn it. And so I remembered that I had been playing the Simpsons game years ago, and I remember being towards the end, but I was stuck at this place really like, do you want this game spoiled for you, or have you played it, or do you care?
I would like to say I wouldn't like it spoiled for me, but at the same time, I don't think I'm ever going to get around to it.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but at some point you do wind up in heaven. And Benjamin Franklin's there, and you have to fight him. And every time you fight him, it's like the slimes in Fester's Quest or something like that. Like he'll split into two smaller Benjamin Franklins, or some of those enemies in Castlevania. And then those Benjamin Franklins, when you beat them up, they'll split into two smaller Benjamin Franklins, and they have keys that'll shoot you with electricity. And I was just having the worst time getting past him, and I knew that the last boss was just right beyond him, and I just couldn't beat it for the life of me. And so I put the game down for 10 years.
Wow.
Done with this. And other games had come and gone, so better games, unfortunately. But I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this damn game. I've had it for so long. And so I finally did it. It only took 2 or 3 tries.
Nice.
And
your motor skills have improved.
Yeah. I'll let you know now, though, the end of that game is really, really boring.
The last boss?
The ending and the last boss. And slightly insulting, which is annoying. It's the new Simpsons writing, so it's like we can be insulting and do things half-assed as long as we make a joke about it, and then it's okay. Kind of,
right.
how they,
one of those
it's that
things.
new Simpsons writing where it's like, isn't this funny because we're self-aware that we're doing things half-assed. I guess that's okay, funny. I don't know. Bring back Schwartzwelder. Bring back Conan.
Yeah, I'm really bad about that on the Dragon Quest games. I may have brought this up before. Okay, so Dragon Quest V is the only one I can actually legitimately play from where I left off because I am at the end of that game. Mm-hmm. It's just the last boss is really hard. Yeah. Grandmaster Nimzo. Mm-hmm. And so I've not been able to beat him, and I don't have the patience to level up my character right now, at least right now.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Quest VI, I am somewhere in the middle of the game. It took me forever to get into that game, and I finally did. And I had to put it down, and around that time is when I went through my breakup. So the last thing on my mind was Dragon Quest, you know? So I was like, okay, not gonna deal with this. And then when I tried to pick it up again, I'm just like, I have no idea where I am.
That's funny because when I went through a really bad breakup, Final Fantasy XI actually really helped me get through it.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I played the hell out of that game.
But you were online and you were talking with other people. I'm talking to NPC characters.
Yes, I guess that helps.
So, Dragon Quest VII, I mean, this is all out of order, by the way, but Dragon Quest VII, really? I went back to it when I had it on PlayStation still, and, forget about that. I have no idea what I was doing in that game. I think I had just gotten, like, the next character, but I can't even remember if that was even the case. So I gave up on that one because starting that game from the beginning, like the first 2-3 hours of that game is boring because you do not encounter one enemy. Oh, wow. In the first 3 hours.
I heard this recently about the DS re-release.
Oh, is it still the same?
Yeah.
That's the only part I dread when I get the 3DS version of this game. Because after that, the game becomes interesting.
I like how you rebuy a game that you weren't planning on playing from the beginning again anyways.
Well, no, I eventually planned on doing it again. It's just that at the time that I actually had done this, I was just like, no, I'm going to kind of back off on this right now.
Put this away for now.
Yeah. Dragon Quest VIII, I didn't get far enough to really worry about that. But then Dragon Quest IX, I did it again. It was the same situation where I was just like, crap, I don't know where I'm going. And Dragon Quest IX, I mean, all the games aren't like linear or anything like that, but this game is, far less linear. Because you have side quests you can take, and I think I was in the middle of a side quest, so I don't even remember what I needed to do in that side quest.
No, man. Yeah, that's the worst. Just forget about it.
Yeah, so I'm really bad about this on the Dragon Quest games. Yeah,
I feel like I have an RPG like that too.
Well, I would assume it's either Grandia or...
No, I beat those games.
Oh, you did?
Beat the hell out of them games. No, I don't know what it could be. Like, I know I'm still stuck somewhere in Final Fantasy 2. I'm sorry, 5. In some tree, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing after that. Twilight Princess, I never finished, even though I talked about how much I love that game. And I don't know what to do, and I was playing the game in Japanese. And so now I don't know. I've gotten to the part where I can freeform change between Wolf and Link now on my own.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I'm in the Dark World. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. And actually... Nice. Actually, no, my save file should be fine because I have the Wii version. Yeah, thank goodness. So at least I can go back to it. I didn't have the GameCube version, so it's not corrupted.
Alright. I'm thinking, now, this is where I'm trying to remember. Okay. Because there were 2 Zelda games on the Wii. There was,
Skyward Sword and this one.
Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. That was the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I never got to play.
Yeah, me neither. I never touched it.
Although I heard that... I heard, swinging the Wiimote around constantly can get a little monotonous.
Yeah, see, and that's just the thing about the Wii. The wing about the Wii. I don't know. Speaking of Nintendo and consoles and things, I want to I'd like to retract a statement I made in the last episode, if I could, if that's allowed.
Sure.
I don't know. The internet, once you say something that's set in stone, I don't know. You're not allowed to change your opinions on things.
Well, what is the so-called opinion that you have to change?
So when we were talking about the Switch, one of my complaints was that the launch lineup was pretty piss poor. And while I'll admit it's still pretty weak, there actually is more than one game that if I were to have just all the money into Worlds and could buy a Switch on launch day, there's actually a few more games that I would actually probably buy alongside with Zelda.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Call of the Wild.
Breath of Enchantment. What games are those?
So, Ultra Street Fighter. No, I'm sorry.
Right.
Mario Kart 8, and the reason why I had completely just kind of disregarded it is because the game already exists. And I don't know why, just in my head.
Have you played it?
I have played it like at a Target. So, and it's just one of those things where I just kind of dismissed it because it's a game that already exists, and so I kind of look at it the same as a game that I already own.
Okay.
Even though I don't have it. So I was like, what am I doing? And so Nintendo finally took their whole post-Switch presentation Treehouse Live thing and they split it up into different sections and put it all up on YouTube. And so I was going through those and I was watching the Mario Kart 8 part of it. And I was like, wow, this actually looks like a whole lot of fun. Why wouldn't I want this game?
Right.
So that.
It is a fun game. Like I said, it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I haven't seen all the Treehouse Live stuff yet. But I don't know if my theory about the battle arenas were true. I believe that's the one that didn't originally have them.
I don't know if they kind of offhandedly stated that at the beginning or not. I don't know. But it was the same thing when they were talking about the game. They were mostly just doing playthroughs and kind of talking about what you can do. And all they were doing was the battle arena. So I'm assuming that's why. They didn't do any racing.
I remember... I'm almost positive it was that game that it was a big controversy that everybody wanted their battle arena in it. I don't blame them. I mean, it's a popular mode. It's just not my kind of mode. I'd rather just go ahead and do the races.
It's one of those things that's fun with a whole lot of people.
Right.
But when we would play it, it's usually just you and me. And it's just kind of,
Yeah, it's only fun for so much.
Yeah. But these battle arenas, they look fun. You can actually have computer opponents in the battle arena with you. There's this thing called Babam something, where all the items are Babams. And you can collect multiple Babams. So you can stockpile up to 10 Babams. And then just start throwing bombs just all over the place. And so it's just explosions everywhere. That looked like fun. I would want to do that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the deluxe part comes in because it has all the additional tracks on there that weren't in the original.
Yeah, it's got all the tracks, it's got all the DLC characters, and then it's got the Squid Kids. The Squidlings.
The Squid Kids, Bowser Jr., and King Boo.
Yeah.
That was the other character I forgot.
Dry Bones. Was Dry Bowser a DLC character?
Dry Bowser was already a DLC character.
Okay, yeah. But Dry Bones also. So that's cool.
I will say one complaint, and maybe it's just because I'm so used to how they had done it before.
No baby Dry Bones.
Yeah, no baby Dry Bones. That's exactly what it is.
That's what I
want. Okay, so one of the courses, I can't remember the name of the cups right now, but one of the cups has SNES Rainbow Road in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, cool. But it's the second track in that course, and I'm just like, this is a little weird playing it as the second track in a course, because it's usually reserved for the last track. So
it's weird. I don't think has there ever been a guest Rainbow Road in a Mario Kart game before?
A guest Rainbow Road, as in
like a classic Rainbow Road stage.
Yeah, it started technically. If you want to get really technical about it, it actually started in the Game Boy Mario Kart, because there's a secret mode where you can play all the classic tracks on there. But when they really started doing that was on the Nintendo DS, but they didn't actually start the whole Rainbow Road Classic thing until Mario Kart 7. Because I think by then they had enough to where...
Oh, I don't... never mind. I haven't played through 7. I just played 7 for the first time a week ago. Not even a week ago. Sometime this week.
Yeah, it's like the Classic Special Cup.
That's why. Okay, see... I know that they bring classic tracks. I've never seen them bring a classic Rainbow Road before, though, so that seemed weird to me.
Yeah, it's in this one. That's the first one. I think by this time they have enough Mario Kart or Rainbow Road tracks to where they can just go Rainbow ahead and Road start edition? Putting them each in order. Oh. Yeah, pretty much, because there's the Rainbow Road and the SNES Rainbow Road from oh my god, in Mario Kart 7, and then it's there again in 8. It was a DLC course, but it just seems so out of place. Because when you're in the special cup for the special classic cup for the Mario Kart 8, then it's the N64 Rainbow Road. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be like that, so on and so forth. So I personally can't wait until they actually put in the GameCube Rainbow Road, because that's been my favorite one out of all of them.
Oh man, I don't remember. I was actually talking to my kid was watching it with me, and I was talking to him about Double Dash. I was like, man, we gotta play that one day. Like, you'd really like that one.
Oh yeah, no, I really wish they would bring that back. I kind of hope they do that for the next Mario Kart.
Me too. Like, it seems kind of close now because you can actually double hold items now, but you still have to use them in order.
Right.
So
well, do I double hold item? You mean in this
Mario, at least
Mario
in Deluxe? At least in Deluxe. If you hit a double question mark block, a 2-stack one, you can actually get 2 items, but you can't choose which one to use first.
That's new then, because that wasn't in the original.
Okay, yeah, they have double stacked question mark blocks, and so you can get 2 items at the same time, but you still gotta use them in order. You can't switch between them like Double Dash. That game was so fun, right? So well done.
One thing I like about Mario Kart Double Dash is that the tracks they actually use like live instruments this time. So the music sounds more authentic, but then with some of the tracks that you've gotten so used to from the previous games, it sounds weird.
Oh yeah. In Double Dash?
No, in Mario Kart 8.
Oh, okay.
Like if you listen to some of the remix stuff, like if you listen to, let's say for example, Yoshi Circuit, which was like one of the main themes for Mario Kart Double Dash, it sounds really weird arranged like that.
Oh wow, I have to check it out.
Yeah,
and
overall though, it's a good soundtrack.
Yeah, and then the other game that they showed, I don't know, I didn't realize it was a launch title. Maybe might have been it, because I was pretty positive about it. So maybe that's why. This Bomberman R is actually a launch day release title. Yeah, I know. Me neither. And it's, from what I was watching, it looks almost exactly like what I thought. Like it's very much has a lot of Saturn Bomberman's DNA in it. So it's classic Bomberman. It's mazes. It's multiplayer, multi-character within a maze map. Like they're not really trying to, reinvent the wheel with it. Reinvent the Bomberman wheel. Like it's just an upgraded version of classic Bomberman, basically. Like a love letter to Bomberman and Bomberman fans, and so you can do those 8-player multi-battles again, like we used to do back in high school. And looks like so much fun. And all that. What I like is that you saw all the little Bombermans, right, in the trailer. Yeah, they all have their own little personalities, so it's really fun. And they all walk differently and talk differently. There's one that's like a sleepy Bomberman, so he's like hunched over with his arms dangling. And he's like, let me just sleep for another 5 hours, 25 minutes. It's funny.
Yeah, I only caught a glimpse of that. but I do remember that.
Yeah, I would totally get it.
But they should probably add the Bomberman from Bomberman X Zero, because that was such a popular game.
We'll see. Konami, you have made one good decision in these last 2-3 years.
Now,
you still haven't righted yourself in my book, but thank you for Bomberman R.
Now cancel Metal Gear Survive, please.
Please.
Just cancel it. Do us all a favor.
So I have one last speculation question for you before we move on
What's
to
that?
Our topic of the day. Do you think they're going to implement some form of trophies? Because they haven't talked about that yet.
I don't think so, just because it never seemed like something Nintendo really wanted to do. If any games did it,
What if it was a way now, though, to earn Nintendo coins, like you could in Miitomo, just to buy like worthless crap on the eShop?
I prefer that, because I don't like this new way of doing it. I remember getting rewards points was a lot easier when you just bought the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Mm-hmm. Why they decided to end that, I don't know. I don't know if it cost them much or what. Mm-hmm. But even then, like in North America, if what you're saying, what you want and everything, if they did that in North America, they need to come up with some damn good items, because eventually it got to some cool stuff like the Mario hat or the Mario bust with all the characters in it. Yeah, eventually just became downloadable stuff because that was easier. Meanwhile,
Right.
Japan's
And that's what I'm talking about, though. I would mean more like downloadable stuff, because obviously, they're not going to let you buy legit items with digital currency. But like stuff for like your Mii, or to buy new themes for your background on your menus, things like that.
I don't know, with how quickly Miitomo just kind of came and went. You want
to hear a funny story?
I'm just like, I don't care for that. Sure.
You want? I actually just re-downloaded Miitomo.
You traitor.
I actually have a very good reason for doing it, because I'm sure I mentioned that my son got his first 3DS, his first handheld period, for Christmas. And so actually I wanted to put my Mii on his system, and that was the whole reason. And then I forgot that they don't get to take their clothes with them, and so they're just in that stupid one color shirt and one color pants thing. I was like, oh god, that's right. Where's my hoodie? Damn it.
Yeah, well,
but it still
Miitomo
works flawlessly.
Yeah, Miitomo is a stripped down version of Tamagotchi Life. My son plays it all the time.
It's gotten better now. You can actually you can decorate your room now. Mm-hmm. You can actually use your Miitomo to send private messages to certain people on your friends list, and some other stuff. And again, it's got ways to earn Nintendo coins on it, which I think is something you're about to talk about.
No, I'm just saying that, you kind of brought up the whole thing about the reward system, which I really liked. I think a lot of other people did too, but I guess I'm a little bitter about it because, Nintendo of America only did so much, and a lot of them say, well, it was because of import costs and this and that and everything. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, why was Europe and Mexico getting cool things while we were kind of getting shafted on a lot of it, The one big thing that irks me all the time is Japan had a Super Nintendo style controller for that you could use with the Wii U, or excuse me, with the Wii, and it's something that never came out here, and I've always been upset about that one because I wanted one of those things.
Oh wow!
And you got these scalpers on eBay that want millions of dollars for it. So
oh dang, I gotta see if I can find one of those.
Oh, I know. I want to find one. Or like they had this Yoshi plush that was eating an apple. Like we never got this, you know.
What the apple?
Just nifty little things. I mean, at the beginning, and I totally regret getting rid of this. They had the Game & Watch collection, which I ended up picking up for the DS. That was the only way you can get that game, and it was the game. They were a bunch of Game & Watch games, but they played like the old ones, like with the frames and everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything updated or anything like that.
Cool. As it should be.
They just played like the old games.
That's awesome. Dang.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Also, I want to make one correction from last week, too. I had said that there was actually hide nor hair scene of any Mii's during the presentation. That is incorrect. I did see snippets of the thing again, and there is a real quick shot of Mii's doing something. So the Mii's will return in Switch. The movie.
And the Nintendo Switch. Speaking of classic games.
Good lord. We were never speaking of classic games. Don't listen to him. But games as a medium, Maverick, would you say it's a visual medium?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a visual medium. Yeah, it's a medium that's visual. You can see it with your eyes. Yeah. Are you putting on a wrestling mask? What is that?
It's my hat.
You're gonna go out and scare some old ladies?
I was looking. Yes, I'm gonna scare some old ladies.
Yes, and so as a visual medium, of course, things need to move on the screen in order to be entertaining. And for the majority of video games' life, there have been graphics on the game that represent things. You know, we've come a long way from the square that represents a ball and the longer squares that represent a paddle. And it's table tennis. Sure it is, I guess. Oh, okay. Yeah, I believe it. What else do I have to compare it to? But eventually, they took on shapes of spaceships and basketball players and fat plumbers and things like that. And, on occasion, a lot of them just look real video gamey. Real plain, normal, digital gamey. But sometimes, some games take on a breath of artistic mastery like has never been seen before. Sometimes these games look beautiful, downright fluid and lifelike, because they have such wonderful and beautiful animation. I, Maverick, as you know, went to school for animation.
You did?
And so, you could say that I'm a bit of a connoisseur, if you would, an aficionado, if you please, of animation. I love animation. I love great animation. I love beautiful, smooth, lovely animation. And I love it in games. Love it in movies. Love it on TV. Animation's amazing. And when it looks like love and care and effort and blood and sweat and tears went into that animation, it just looks even better. And so we want to, let's take a look back. Maverick, let's go back into the history books and look at some games that have the good animation.
I think the first time I looked at animation in a game, like where I really started paying attention to how not smooth, but how fluid like the characters are.
Good choice of words.
It goes back as far back as the NES days, only because when you start paying attention to this stuff, it's like, this does look this does look smooth. This does look really, like he's really like an animated cartoon. And that was Kirby's Adventure for me. Which, looking back on it now, you don't see that anymore. But like, prior to playing that, I played Kirby's Dream Land. Of course, that game came out first.
Right.
And to just see, more frames of animation added to the character, it really did bring the character to life. So it was really fun to see what they could do. And from what I understand, it's one of Nintendo's biggest cartridges on the system.
Oh, wow.
So it makes sense.
Makes sense. But, a lot of squash and stretch in that Kirby.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. And one of the one time that I really noticed it was when you inhale an enemy and you can still walk.
Oh,
and so his in the Game Boy version, it's just 2 frames of animation. His left arm moves up or his right arm moves up. In this one, he kind of curves around, the audience can't see it, but he moves almost
He's flailing his arms crazily in the air, like a wacky, wavy, inflatable flailing arm tube man.
Something like that. And
he's got a bit of a waddle, right? He puts on a bit of weight, and you can actually kind of feel it and see it in his movement because he's got a little creature inside of him.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time I actually took notice on gaming animation. It wasn't Mario, it wasn't Zelda, it wasn't any of those games. It was Kirby,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, those especially, they were made not knowing what the full potential of the NES was.
Right, and I'm sure that there's other games that made better use of it that I probably never played, but by that time I had been sticking to certain franchises, so I probably missed out on a lot of other games that did it better. But
right. Well,
Kirby,
certainly
again, like I said, was definitely one where I noticed it.
Yeah, certainly on the NES, it's few and far between, so they'd be really hard to come by. And I mean, obviously we could go, the PC route. They had Prince of Persia, and before it, what's that game? Karateka, I think is what it's called. The precursor to Prince of Persia. Karateka, there we go. That's the one. Which, you want to talk fluidity, those are really almost too fluid, I would say, at some point. Made them hard to control, at least for me. That's why I just couldn't get into Prince of Persia. Just the stops and the jumps and everything is just a little too difficult. But they look nice. They're pretty to look at. And if watching somebody who knows what they're doing play those games is a feast for the eyes, I have to say. But for me, I don't know if there's really anything from the 8-bit era that I remember really blowing me away. There wasn't...
Animation-wise?
Animation-wise, yeah. No, I hated the 8-bit era. All of it. It was just terrible. I'm completely contradicting everything I've ever said in my entire life. But obviously when we moved to the 16-bit era, it's where things really kind of got a shot in the arm. And this was back when a console leap really felt like a console leap.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like, especially this current leap that we just had from, the PS3 generation to the PS4 generation and all those other systems, where it's noticeable, but it's not like, oh my god, this looks so much better. We don't have that anymore. We're not really drooling over them as much. I think that's part of the thing, is just it's starting to become very negligible. The things that are changing are more under the hood and not so much on the screen. For some people they are. There's some real anal people out there that will be like, this is better, I promise you, this has got farther more frames of animation and polygon count. There are those people, but for the average Joe, it's not as big of a leap as going from the 8-bit systems to 16-bit. It was huge.
Right. These days, it's more visually, it's more about processing power. Because I mean, from what I understand, Metal Gear Solid 5 looks like crap on the Xbox 360 and PS3. But, you compare it to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions, they run a whole of a lot smoother.
Really?
So, I think it's just more of how the machines can run the game more so than...
Yeah.
more so than how it looks. Although the looks, you do see a difference in the looks, but like for someone who's just like a casual gamer, they're not going to see that.
Yeah, they're not going to care. They ain't going to care that much. But yeah, that once you saw a Super Nintendo or Genesis game for the first time, you kind of shunned your little 8-bit system for a while there. You kind of looked at it like in the corner, like, you're not good enough anymore. I don't have that now.
Yeah.
we all had a little bit of that.
I liked me personally, even though I grew up in the NES days and whatnot, and even the Atari days, in the later days. For me, it was the big console for me growing up was the Super Nintendo because of just how nice the graphics looked and everything. And this is what I wanted, something that looked a little more cartoony. So when I see games like Mega Man and he actually looks like cartoon characters as opposed to this little 8-bit sprite that you see running around, it was more appealing to me. That's part of the reason why Mega Man... it's not the whole reason, but it's part of the reason why Mega Man 7 is one of my favorite games. And I'm probably on the low end of that... I can't even think of the word I'm trying to think of, but I'm probably on the lower end of that spectrum. Thank you. Because apparently Mega Man 7 is like probably considered one of the worst games in the series.
Aww.
But for me, it's like my favorite one in the whole entire series.
Hey man, like what you like. To each their own. But for me, I can't say 16-bit and cartoony without thinking of Earthworm Jim 1.
Yes.
On the Genesis. Yes. That was really the first time I remember them making a big deal about how the game was hand-drawn.
Right.
And they'd show. I remember they would do like articles in the magazines and stuff, and they would actually show how they actually hand drew all the animations, the idling animations and everything for Earthworm Jim, and then they would transpose that into pixels on the game in order to get kind of it's a bit more professional looking animation to him. He's got a lot of bounce to him. He's got a lot of follow through and secondary action, as we like to say, with like his little head tail bopping, and it looked really smooth. And I think a lot of that was a lot of shortcuts. They used a lot of smears and stuff to really kind of trick the eye into thinking that it looked almost like a cartoon on your TV, and it did, especially that Genesis version. And I think that probably does come down to that processing power versus the Super Nintendo. Right. It was able to handle a few more frames of animation, enough to be noticeable. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And this was even before I had decided that I wanted to study animation. Just the fact that they were willing to put in this kind of time and effort into animating the characters to make it look, a bit more cinematic than anything anybody had seen before.
And that's something, and you're right, that is something I noticed. I'll bring up another example here in a minute, but Earthworm Jim, I remember the one thing I actually remember standing out the most, it was probably the most subtle detail, is when you're in Heck and you're running through the level, and in the background you see Evil the cat just kind of dancing around. But it's like how smooth the animation is. Even the Super Nintendo version did have that, but I'm pretty sure there were cuts made on the Super NES version. I don't quite remember the whole thing. Also, other aspects of Earthworm Jim that I remember, in level 5, we had that cat that would walk around, and I think it had it was holding a fish in a bowl or something.
The last boss? No. The cats were just like these big hulking cats with big arms, and they would punch you back across.
And they were holding something in their.
They might have been holding something, but the fish was just sitting on a pedestal at the end. You just knocked him off the pedestal, and that was the last boss of that stage.
But I remember, the boss of that level.
That's what I meant. Yeah, the stage.
I remember just how smooth the animation was on him. Like, you could see his arm swinging around and everything. And I was like, holy crap, that looks like it's a cartoon.
Yeah, they really paid attention to what we call the rules of animation. So they really, were real careful about the frames and making sure that they had all the rules, the principles of animation in there, all the smears and the squashes and stretching and all that kind of stuff. And then the timing, especially of those frames to make it look smooth, even though it's not 60 frames per second. But even on a 16-bit console, as long as you follow those old rules going all the way back to the 1940s, you can still come up with something pretty spectacular. Earthworm Jim just still sticks out of my mind so much that even to this day, I'm obsessed with it to the point where I still follow Earthworm Jim's creator, Doug Tenopple, on Twitter. That's like how much of an impact Earthworm Jim had on me. Like, after all these years, I'm so, hey, I can, kind of keep in contact with this guy. He followed me back. He's the nicest guy.
Nice.
So it's like not that we don't have private conversations, although I have talked to him in the past, had a brief conversation about something. So it was kind of cool. Like, that's just the impact that it had on me. I would always draw Earthworm Jim like on the sides of my notebooks at school and stuff like that. Like, that's how much of an impact that game had on me. I loved that game so much. It was really a disappointment when the second one came out. I think even on the Genesis, the second one had some animation cuts. I remember it not looking as nice.
No, we were probably spoiled because we both rented the Saturn version that one time, remember?
Oh. And that makes it even sadder.
The Saturn.
That makes it even sadder on the Saturn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, the music on the second one. Anyways, that's a whole other episode that we already did.
Right. The other one thing I noticed, and this, again, going back to our whole Konami conversation, because you brought up the Genesis, and the one thing I noticed between the Super Nintendo and the Genesis is, again, frames of animation, and Konami was really good about this when it came to Genesis games.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I've mentioned this before on some of them, like not Turtles in Time, but Hyperstone Heist, when they're throwing the foot soldiers around, you actually see, all that there's no skip in the animation. You actually see them like tossing them over and raising their arm over their head and whatnot. It's just not like left, right, that's it, And that's something that I noticed was kind of lacking in the Super Nintendo version. And then another example, and these are all Konami examples, although I will say Dracula X for the Super Nintendo did have more fluid animations for some of the characters, but that's besides the point.
Looked pretty good, though.
No, it's a good game. Not as good as the actual Dracula X game, though. Castlevania Bloodlines, when the first Castlevania, and I think the only one on the Genesis, their characters actually, instead of just standing there all static for waiting for you, they actually moved.
Yeah.
They actually had a stance, and they jump around, they'd be breathing or something. If you're playing Eric Lacarde, he'd stand there, and I believe his hair would blow in the wind or something. And even with Contra, their characters, and even with Contra, like, their characters would stand there, and they would they'd just stand there breathing or doing something. They wouldn't just. I think the only one that didn't animate was like the character Brownie, which was just a small robot.
Right, which that sounds like it was a conscious choice. But yeah, having an idle animation always just brings life to a character. I love when games, have characters do stuff like Sonic. That would always. I think Sonic was one of the first ones I ever remember doing that.
Yeah.
He'd stand there, but he would eventually like start to react to the fact that you're not moving, at least.
Right.
And so I always found that funny. But yeah, having an idle animation, like it just kind of feels like things are constantly going. Like the character is not just on the screen because you're playing a game. Like it actually feels like they're living there.
Well, yeah, I mean, as subtle as it is and as small as it is, it gives that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know? It makes the whole game feel alive. And not just like a game.
So when it comes to, and I don't want to go, I know we always jump back into fighting games, but just to bring it up, when I really, I mentioned the whole thing with Kirby, but then when it really became an issue as far as animation frames and all that, the first time it was ever brought up to me was when Fatal Fury 2 came out on the Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends pointed out to me that, wow, the graphics on this are really choppy, and I never noticed that until he told me. So I took a close look at the Super Nintendo graphics, and then I looked at the Neo Geo graphics. I'm like, wow, this really does look a whole lot different.
Right? Yeah, I know. And even by Neo Geo standards, compared to some of the later MVS games, it doesn't even look that good anymore.
Oh yeah, it's definitely dated.
Yeah. But for me, it was actually the jump, if I want to stick there for a second, the jump to KOF is actually where I noticed a huge leap in graphics.
Oh yeah.
It was one of the things that let me forgive the fact that the characters looked so skinny. Which I had mentioned before, I ended up getting used to, and then when I'd go back to one of the other mainline games and the characters would look too fat and muscular. But the fact that all their stances were so smooth was what I loved.
Right.
And I loved just watching.
Yeah, that was starting with King of Fighters 95. I remember when it started to look smooth, like, because you watch King of Fighters 94 and it was as basic as you can get, but then King of Fighters 95 came around and it was like, wow, even though the characters look the same, they look more fluid.
Yeah, especially Terry's stance is the one that always sticks out in my mind. Like, I don't see a single break in animation in his stance. It's so smooth. It's just fun to watch and very bouncy.
With an animation, when it came to the 32-bit era, you were about to bring up the Saturn, and I mean, definitely the Saturn was an animation powerhouse when compared to the PlayStation.
Buddy. That's the system I wanted.
I remember being jealous that your games had complete frames of animation and mine were like choppy and whatnot. The first time I didn't know at the time that it was a problem, but the first time I took note of something going wrong was Darkstalkers.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't notice only because I never played the arcade game too often. But they tried to squeeze in so much with the graphics, and it's a animation heavy game.
Yeah, it is.
And I remember by the time you got maybe to like because you usually the character roster, whenever you fought them, the last two you fight always before the bosses would be Riku or Sasquatch. And so by the time I got around there, the game just started slowing down, and I remember calling Capcom about this and saying, there's something wrong with your game. I've returned it twice now and this is happening. Oh yeah, that's a known bug in the game, we never fixed it.
Ouch.
Oh my god, are you serious? Because like,
and thus Maverick was set on his quest to one day become a QA tester, to finally put an end to the injustices in the system and fight it from within. Am I right? Does that sound good?
Oh yeah, you're on point. No, what happened was I just stopped playing it because you never knew what was going to happen, and the conclusion I came to was it's just that it's so graphic heavy, couldn't handle it. Because by the time I got to Pyron, I could barely move the character.
Damn, that sucks. It just ate so
and
many resources.
Yeah, and it was so random. You never knew when it was going to happen.
That's too bad. My Darkstalkers always worked fine. I just, I never had a problem.
Yeah, I hate you.
Beat it with a lot of characters.
I hate you, Mister.
And that's a game too, and it's funny because it runs on the same engine as the Street Fighter Alpha series, and I think even Super Street Fighter 2. As much as I love the Alpha series, which, by the way, I would kind of like to see another Alpha game now. But
oh yeah, same here.
Those games never looked as good as Darkstalkers. For as much as I loved them.
No, they didn't.
Animation-wise, Darkstalkers just had it. It had that thing that I think we had talked about this a few episodes ago as well. It just had that personality. And of course, a lot of that for these characters comes out in the animations and the things that they do. And the fact that it was so fluid just made it feel even better. Like you got things like Morgan's little hand thwips in her idle animation, where she's just kind of thwipping her hands around. It's so subtle, so completely unnecessary, but if they were to ever to cut that out, you would notice.
Oh yeah,
because it's just part of her character.
And I can't say with each game, only because the first and second one were technically the same game. It's just the second one was an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Although I still like the first one better. The
fighting words.
The third one with what they did with Jeddah and that one move where like the blood comes out and starts smearing you across the floor.
I love that.
Or smacks you into that scroll.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit! What the hell did he just do? He wiped the floor with me, but then I just remember the animation where it's just, your character's he's not being torn to shreds, but he's getting his ass kicked, and then he just gets imprinted into the paper. I was like, that is amazing.
Yeah, Jeddah was great. Oh, I love
at the
Jeddah.
time, it was impressive.
I don't know why they don't bring Jeddah back. Bring back Jeddah. Bring back Jeddah.
He was in Capcom Fighting Jam.
Shh. We don't speak of that game. No.
Yeah. Also with the X-Men and the Marvel games, they did the same thing. They had
anyone who's ever seen Wolverine
game
popping out, or Psylocke had a real good, and Cyclops too, actually, for being such a bland character. Like, he had real smooth animation.
Oh yeah. I hate Cyclops, but that's for a different podcast altogether.
It's a completely different show. Rich?
Yeah. Right.
But I always liked how his laser would always have just a little bit of a drag as he was moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, just not just like the kind of, there's just like a little bit of laser just kind of coming out of his goggles, and it would always just have a drag that would kind of follow him with a bit of a delay. And I always thought that looked really cool.
Right. And I remember as each game kept coming out, it's like it just got more and more. Again, just like
Blackheart, dude. Blackheart.
Okay, let me tell you something about Blackheart and the PlayStation version.
Let's open up more wounds on Maverick.
If I've mentioned this before, I apologize. I am almost sure I mentioned this before, but freaking Blackheart on the PlayStation version doesn't have his walking animation whatsoever. He has instead, like, okay, what they have before, let's say, round 1 or round 2, they actually have these little special animations that, aren't their normal walking stance.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, I had not played Marvel Superheroes in the arcade much before this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this was normal, right? I was less impressed that they got the game to run on the PlayStation to begin with. And so, and I was like, oh, wow, the background looks beautiful and everything like that. I borrowed my friend's Saturn version of the game, and I borrowed your 1 gigabyte cartridge because it supported that.
Right.
And when I saw that Blackheart had a walking stance, I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me?
And it's beautiful, too. That's just more twist to the knife.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, what's this? And he's like doing all this stuff. I'm like, none of this was in the PlayStation 1, you know, like some of his moves are like, some of it's just the same animation with like different demons coming out and whatnot. I'm just like, I was very unhappy, and I was like, man, I want a Saturn just for this, you know, and because that 4 megabyte cartridge made a huge difference. The 1 and the 4 gig or megabyte cartridges, they made huge differences. It just, if 2D games had still been big, you know, and not 3D games, I'm almost sure the Saturn would have won that war.
Yeah, it was such a lovely system. The game that I was going to mention earlier that I'll always fondly remember for its gameplay and its animation and its music and its replayability is Guardian Heroes.
Yes, you were very into that game.
So good. The animation was exquisite, especially the character that I used, Randy, who was like this little boy wizard, not to be confused with Horcruxes. And he had this really neat anime. He had like these real like heavy sleeves that almost looked like something Aladdin would wear, or the Sultan. And so he would like kind of bounce back and forth, and his sleeves would have a bit of drag as they would move. And he would always like spin his staff. He had like this little staff that he would fight with. And so like he would spin that around almost like it was a baton for like more combos and stuff. And it just looked amazing. And then he would cast spells, so he was the only one that could cast spells in the game, and that looked great. Just like all the characters, like really animated really well. It was one of those games. It was in the era of having an anime cutscene, so that always helped.
Right,
love me some anime cutscenes.
Yeah, and again, like PlayStation didn't even get a game like that. That was like a Saturn exclusive, wasn't it? Yeah. I don't remember too many games utilizing a great animation. Oh, going back to Mega Man. Mega Man 8.
Mega Man 8 did look nice.
I will say that with the exception of Frostman, I think PlayStation had the better music. But again, I was jealous of your Saturn version.
Yeah. I personally think the Saturn had better music, but that's just me. Your phone seems to agree.
Wow, my phone just decided to go crazy. Nice.
It was agreeing with me that the Saturn had better music.
Right.
So I was earning points. I was earning Nintendo coins.
Oh yeah. No, I think the PlayStation version had the better music, but the Saturn had the better graphics. I mean, Mega Man 8 more so than Mega Man X4, because the biggest difference I noticed in Mega Man X4, besides the well, there's a thing in the music, but that's a whole different thing.
My Tango Man music was way better. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Yeah, okay, shut up about Tango Man.
Tango Man.
Well, okay, Mega Man X4, the biggest difference would have been... what's that guy's name? He's the fire guy who does the Hadoukens.
Ryu.
No.
Ken.
Magma Dragoon.
Akuma.
Magma Dragoon.
Geki.
Magma Dragoon. Yes, okay. Yes, Geki. Magma Dragoon stage, like, the heat in the background, you'd actually see how it warped the background, whereas the PlayStation version was just static imagery.
Yes, Saturn had a lot of that stuff, like environmental effects and stuff that used to that would typically
they didn't
get cut
do
out.
Much with Mega Man X4 though. But Mega Man 8, again, I've brought this up in the past. Let me just sum it up with this one boss fight here. The very first boss fight in the entire game, and all those birds come flying out, you know, from the crab boss. And then in my version, none of that happens. It's just one pathetic bird flying off into the distance. Okay. Yeah. That right there is that whole Daffy Duck effect, you know, or, you know, you with the Saturn, you have the rock music playing, and then with the PlayStation version, you have...
That's a good analogy. I like it. You should do more of that. That's great. I'd like to give a special shout out to an indie title, if I may, with wonderful animation. Although lately there's been more and more of these. But there's one specifically I would like to call out, not just because a friend of mine worked on it, not just because I also tried to work on it, but because it does actually have really beautiful animation and that because I know how the process worked of how they made it as well, like that makes it even more impressive. It brings me back to that whole Earthworm Jim thing of, really paying attention to the principles of animation. And that is a fighting game called Skullgirls. If you've not heard of this game, you should go check it out, especially if you like good old fighter games, especially if you like combo heavy fighting games. And if you're really worried about misogyny in games, because this game is just all women. Well, at least it used to be. There's a couple guys in it now. I was gonna say at least it used to be. No, there's two now. There's Big Band, and there's what's his name? Oh, now I'm sucking my teeth like you. Look at what you make me do. You're giving me habits. What's his name? He's a Beowulf. There we go, Beowulf.
I'm out of the loop on that. He came out after Big Band. Is Big Band even considered male, or is this we don't know what Big Band is?
Huh? No, he's male. He used to be human.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I didn't understand about Skullgirls when I played that. Sorry, I had to ask this. Does it have a normal story mode?
Yeah, totally. Every character's got a story in that game.
Because it just seemed like I just kept going through the game when there was no ending.
Oh, no. It totally has the story mode, and like every character that you fight in that story mode has something to do with the story. So it's not even like Street Fighter story mode where you just play through the whole game and then you get your ending. Like every fight that you have has something to do with the story. So yeah, there's definitely a story mode in there.
I don't know what version or what I did, but I was not getting that. I was just getting one continuous fight with no end in sight.
Sounds like you selected the arcade mode and not the single player mode. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, so there is a difference. Okay,
there's a difference between
because arcade mode you would think that it's not an endurance thing,
Yeah, arcade mode is more like your traditional Street Fighter Fatal Fury where you just play all the way through the end and then there's like an ending. But story mode actually has a storyline that kind of carries on through the entire game to the end. And every character it's different for every character. And the opponents that you fight are different for every story mode too.
Huh.
And I think even for some people the boss is even different. Like Big Band, I don't think he fights Bloody Marie because he can't get the skull heart because he's not a girl. Sexism.
Well, one game going back to the PlayStation era is that I can remember that had some pretty fluid animation, surprisingly. Probably because it was built from the ground up on that system, was Breath of Fire 3.
Oh my goodness. There's the name I have not heard in a long time.
Yeah, it's quite possibly because I didn't care too much for 1. I liked 2, I liked 3, didn't care for 4, never played 5, but I heard it's absolute crap. And then I heard don't even touch Breath of Fire 6 because I heard that's even worse. But Breath of Fire 3 had some really good animations. I was so impressed with how smooth the characters animated when they're, while they were idle. Well, I mean, they're always idle, but, it wasn't just your standard, oh, well, it's just this image of this monster and that's it, and it was 2D.
Right.
It wasn't 3D animation, even though the backgrounds were 3D and whatnot. The environments were 3D.
Right.
But the characters and the sprites were all in 2D.
Yeah.
And that game had beautiful animation. Remember when you fought the last boss? It was kind of isometric
too, isn't it?
Yeah, it was isometric. And God, when you get to the last boss, Miria, and just this huge, like, she's supposed to be some kind of angel, demon kind of thing, like from Fallen Angel. Really creepy looking. And then, like, there's a scene, like, she has a move, it's like her ultimate attack, I believe, where her face literally just melts off, and then there's just this hole in her face, and it, like, shoots this giant beam at you. But I just remember how clean that animation looked, you know?
Dang.
It was beautiful.
That's awesome. So there's a game, I feel like I've told this story before, but it bears repeating again, and also that was a fairly old episode at this point. But as everybody knows now, real famous anime, Naruto. I think everybody knows, I'm sorry, Naruto. My bad. Let me pronounce it correctly for America. Naruto. Everybody knows what it is for the most part at this point. Like, it's fairly well known in the popular culture. But when it first arrived in Japan, I certainly didn't know what it was. And so as I was walking around Tokyo one year, many years ago, outside of a video game shop, they had, a little display TV just kind of showing a game on demo. And they were showing the demo for the very first Naruto Ultimate Heroes 1 for the PS2. And I remember being blown away at how much it looks like playing a cartoon. And I had no idea what the hell this damn cartoon was. It just looked like a really unique fighting game. And even though it was all sprites, it looked 2D because it uses that cell shading technique that makes things look more like actual cartoons as opposed to real broad stroked outlines. Like Jet Set Radio kind of pioneered that, and it still looks good, but it's definitely got a style to it. It doesn't necessarily look so much like a cartoon so much as it's got kind of a style. And obviously it's trying to look more like static graphical art, not so much like a cartoon. But Naruto won me over just on the way it looked and the way it animated. Like, it looked like you were playing a TV show. I didn't even know it was a TV show when I saw this demo. And I went and I bought the game and brought it home to the States. Like, not knowing anything about it. The game won me over just on the sheer way that it looked. And it's aged now a little bit. Like, I showed it to my kids a few months back, and it showed its age, but it still looked pretty good. The newer ones are obviously more prettier now, but that first game, for what it was, it still looked great. It was still a real fun take on the fighting game mechanic. Like, it wasn't just a straight, Street Fighter, parallel line, just fighting across each other. And this, the way it handled the super moves and like it animated them all out completely, so it looks eventually, like I found out, like the show. I didn't know there was a show until later. It looked great. It was wonderful, and it won me over enough to buy a game I knew nothing about.
Yeah, but weren't they polygon graphics?
They are. It's 3D, but the cell shading that they used looks like it's 2D.
Right. No, you got me confused there for a second because you said sprites. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But then I was like, no,
I'm just using my old man terminology. I apologize.
Now, one game series that I don't follow, but I've seen every now and then, is the Guilty Gear series.
Oh, I was going to bring up Guilty Gear. Good call, though.
Yeah. And, I mean, even though I don't know what it is, I know it's well known for its animations.
Beautiful. Yeah. Again, bought Guilty Gear because of the animation. I am no good at Guilty Gear. And I get fairly good at fighting games usually, right?
Right.
I'm no slouch. A Guilty Gear I could not do, but I still bought it. Just because it looks so pretty. And actually... There's a update coming to Xrd where they finally put back in my favorite character, Baiken. So I may get that one now. That was the one-armed samurai girl.
Yeah, I remember her.
Yeah, they finally put her back in, so I may have to pick that up now.
Well, and then with what you're mentioning, like what they did, with the most recent incarnation of the game, where they make it still look like 2D, but they're actually using 3D graphics and whatnot.
So good.
I'm sure it's quite impressive.
So amazing. And then the way that it fits so seamlessly into just these crazy super moves, which is, again, what I always wanted games to do. This is why, I'm not too impressed with Street Fighter V. I mean, on the one hand, again, it just looks too much like Street Fighter 4 to me to be impressed by it.
Right.
Because at least every Street Fighter up till then, even 4, even though I'm not all that crazy about 4, they all look real distinct from each other.
Right.
Today I ended up putting on a video of Street Fighter V on YouTube real quick. And I forgot which one I was watching. I was like, is this 4 or 5? I can't tell. They look too similar, and it's just like I like watching some of the supers. They're kind of entertaining, but for the most part, they're all kind of the same thing. But that Guilty Gear is what I wanted, just wild, over-the-top super moves with a lot of build-up and anticipation to the move, and some of them are crazy, like that pirate girl who shanghais you in a barrel, and then you wind up on her ship, and then she shoots you out of the cannon or whatever. That stuff is crazy. I love it.
Is that the one that fights with an anchor?
Yeah, she fights with a giant anchor.
And has that really annoying voice of wah, wah.
I guess it's a regular-sized anchor, because anchors are big. Yeah. Or there's one guy who's I don't know what his deal is, but he's strapped to a bed, but he can still fight while he's strapped to the bed. And he puts you in this really weird movie, and he'll sit down in the audience and then watch something happen to you in the movie, and then there's a bad ending to the movie, and that's what hurts you. Just crazy stuff like that. I love it. I had always wanted 2D games to do that. And this looks like all of it looks like it's hand drawn, but it's all made in polygons. It's amazing.
That sounds, those moves sound almost as ridiculous as the ones in Rival Schools. Rival Schools and Project Justice. Mm-hmm. Where you would have who was the one guy? He was in Project Justice, I think. No, he was a swimmer. He was in one of the updates.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
And then you would knock him up in the air, and then they do this dance and whatnot. And I was like, okay, this is a little weird.
Yeah, they do synchronized swimming in the middle of the yeah. I love those specials as well. I always remember the PE teacher. He'd start making them do push-ups, and he's smacking his cane on the ground, and then he was not happy, and then he just kind of smacks them, and he basically golf swings them across the stage.
Yeah, that was a great game. But
there's that game that needs to come back. That and Power Stone. Capcom, enough with the Street Fighters. Give them a break for a little bit.
Old stuff. I mean,
seriously. Shoot. Would love a new Project. I guess now with school violence. Well, Japan don't give a crap about that though, so I don't know why they don't make a new one. Dang it!
Or at least re-release Project Justice. I mean, if you're gonna have it not region locked, then I'd certainly pick up the Japanese version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an HD remix would be nice.
Yeah, but everyone's so PC here, they're gonna be like, oh, well, it promotes school violence, blah blah blah.
Guess what? That's Switch is region free, motherfuckers.
There you go. And with I forget the point I was going to make now.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember, but either way. So yeah, that's more or less those are more or less animations that really come to mind. I know there's a whole lot more, what are those ones called? The Alchemist games, not Full Metal Alchemist, which I know that some of those games look pretty freaking amazing, and so did some of the Dragon Balls with the cel shaded stuff. But I'm talking about sprite-based animation, like Alchemist of Alrive or Alterier.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, but yeah, no.
Yeah, those series, those are sprites animations.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those look beautiful now, like Hyperlight Drifter. I really wanted to play. What's the one? It came out on PS4. You're like a girl with a talking sword. What was that called?
I don't remember.
It was like it was isometric playing. Anyways, that one looked beautiful. Obviously, I think for me right now, the biggest one out today with the nicest graphics, the most beautiful animation is Overwatch, which is basically the Pixar of video games right now for me.
And I still need to play it, but I don't have the time.
It's lovely. Like the in-game animations they're all okay. Like, you know, they're fairly passable, but there's just so much going on that you can't really pay attention to that anyways. But the ending screens, like the victory screens for characters will get like their own, like whoever does the best in the match will get like their own personal victory screen, and so they always have like these real crazy. It's almost like the win poses on Street Fighter. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they'll all do something, right, and then it'll kind of freeze at the very last frame. So they all have those. You can customize those to have different ones. If you start earning, you can start earning new ones and pick the ones that's like your favorite. And then also characters have kind of like just idling animations when you're on the character select screen, and they all just look beautiful. It looks like you're watching a movie. Like everything is paid attention to, like almost every little follicle of hair and just little pieces of drapery moving and just little subtle nuances in the face and stuff. Like it's just amazing. And it's funny because this being a team-based shooter, and the last team-based shooter that I really loved, Team Fortress 2, I nearly bought more or less for the exact same reason, because of the trailer shorts that they were making. Mm-hmm. And so Team Fortresses obviously had a bit more of a different style, looked more like the Incredibles with a whole lot of violence. But I would never really think of Team Fortress as really beautiful animation. Like even like they came out with little shorts focusing on each of the different characters in the game, and they're all brilliant. You should watch all those shorts. They're great. But you know, the animation's, it's good. It's really good. It's really, really good. But like, right, you watch those Overwatch shorts and it's like watching a short movie. You could put that before a film in the theaters and people wouldn't know it's from a video game.
Yeah, I saw some of the I saw some of the bits and pieces of it, and I was like, "Oh, this looks quite impressive."
I do want to see it, but I also don't want to. In the game, it looks exactly the same. It's amazing. It's lovely. It's beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, I don't know.
Game makes me happy.
Before we end our little podcast segment, one last game I want to bring up that I can't believe we forgot to mention, although it didn't do well. You brought up Street Fighter 3.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Going back to sprite-based animation.
Ooh. Yeah. Talk about a step up. There's a step up.
Oh, yeah.
See, there. And I did kind of gloss over it with like how all the Street Fighters look different. And that's what I mean. Street Fighter 3 had a definite look over even Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And, I mean, honestly, it still even looks better than Street Fighter HD, I would say, especially Third Strike.
Oh, yeah.
It was so amazing that first time to see Ryu and Ken's new idle animation. Just every little fold of the clothes, bouncing at its own pace, and the headbands, and then when they would throw the Hadouken, and how you would actually see some of the energy kind of ejecting out through their back, and like it would actually kind of inflate the gi behind them a little bit as it's like kind of being ejected from the back. Like, just amazing. Which is why I really was so sad that they made Street Fighter 4 polygons. I was really hoping to see like a step up of Street Fighter 3. Never happened. But.
Yes, you also have to remember that it had been almost 10 years.
I know,
a little over 10
know.
years since the last one came out. But at the time, and I don't think a lot of today's generation could appreciate that because, a lot of people are kind of growing up on these more recent Street Fighter titles. But then, like, if you look at the evolution of the game, by the time it got to 3, and for those who were too young to remember or who were unaware, we waited years for Street Fighter 3 to come out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big deal back then. I'm sure if this was the age of the internet and we were waiting for Street Fighter 3 at this point, there would probably be petition to make Capcom release Street Fighter 3. Because it was that bad. We had magazines saying, oh, what if it's the year 2065 and there's still no Street Fighter 3?
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that they kept coming out with all those iterations, which has now been, a Capcom tradition. And it all started with Street Fighter 2. And it's because every time we thought, here comes Street Fighter 3, it's a Super Street Fighter. Okay, here comes Street Fighter 3.
Yeah.
This is Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Okay. Here comes Street Fighter 3. Let's go back in time a little bit. Here's Street Fighter Alpha. Play with this for a little bit. Okay. Street Fighter Alpha 2. And it just forever was going on. Like, I think after Alpha 2 it finally came out.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it...
Alpha 3 came out after Street Fighter 3, I think, right?
Yeah, if you think about Alpha 3 came out around this, I think after Street Fighter 3.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, Street Fighter 2 came out in 1991?
Somewhere around, 91.
91, right. Now, not taking into consider the iterations that came out after it to try to quote unquote keep it fresh. We had to wait until 1997 to get Street Fighter 3.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Well, that does seem like a first world problem. Yeah, in video game years?
Huh?
In video game years?
Not only in video game years, but in pre-internet days.
Oh, yeah, also true. Yeah, there's no rumor mill to kind of keep your appetite wet.
Yeah, I remember when we finally got internet. We got it in 1995. I was a junior in high school then, and we got the thing. And finally, they had some images, like some teaser images of Street Fighter 3, and everybody got worked up, and everybody was trying to figure out who's who and this and that, and everybody thought Ibuki was Cammy, and they didn't know if Alex was Zangief with long hair or something like that.
Right, yeah, they kept trying to hope, all the characters carried over, which is funny because almost none of them did.
Right, I mean, if you think about it, the only characters that, ended up being in Street Fighter 3 would be Ryu, Ken, eventually Chun-Li, and I could not believe that they added Akuma to the roster as well.
You gotta add Akuma. You can't have Street Fighter without Akuma.
Right.
You can't have Tekken without Akuma either, apparently. Can't have X-Men without Akuma. Okay.
Right.
Can't have a robot fighting game without Akuma.
But I think the one thing that impressed me the most was like when I was reading about the frames of animation for Ryu throwing the fireball in Street Fighter 2 versus him throwing the fireball in Street Fighter 3. And in Street Fighter 2, he only has 4 frames of animation for that. And in Street Fighter 4, he had 14 frames of animation just to throw a fireball.
Yeah, and it shows. Oh, does it show? Yeah. Game's so lovely. Like, even characters that I didn't like had great animation. Like, what's his name? Oro? The guy, the old man in the cave?
Yeah.
Yeah, even, like, I hated him. He's gross to look at. I don't think he's a good character. But his animation looks great. It's lovely for what it is. And Hugo?
Oh, yeah. Holy cow, when I saw him.
Yeah.
Even more impressive than that was that they were able to get all that animation into SNK versus Capcom Chaos.
Well, it's SNK, they do pretty good with animation.
I was just impressed because he was a heavily animated character. And not only did they get that, they even added, like, in his intro, freaking Bao is in his hair. I'm just like, wow, did they really do that?
That's funny. And it's interesting to note that what is he in? He's in Street Fighter 5?
Mm-hmm. Wait, Hugo?
Yeah, he was in something recently in 3D. What was it?
Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
There we go. He didn't look as impressive.
Well, no, but this time we'd seen all this,
I know, but it's still just the animation is different, and it's not to say that Street Fighter 4 has bad animation, because it doesn't. It looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something lost there. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just a lot more, I think tweening by the computer as opposed to hand-drawn animation.
I think what it is, and this is just me, by the time Street Fighter 4 came out, we had cutscenes, we had dialogue, we were heavy on the storyline. I mean, and that was, true to some extent with the Street Fighter 3s, the 3 Street Fighter 3 games that came out.
Mm-hmm.
But, by that time, Capcom had really taken a cue from not only, their old games, but also SNK. And they started giving their characters more personality, which had to show through their animation. Mm-hmm. And that's what made it so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
my goodness. How did we just get through this entire conversation without talking about KOF 12 and 13?
That's a good point. Probably because we talked about it so much that we were trying to avoid the topic.
I guess so. But you've heard it all before. But yeah.
But it can't go without at least being mentioned. But before we do that, I just want to, I do want to point out one thing, because you mentioned Hugo and everything, and I did not know that this was a special intro in the game. But they kind of recreated a wrestling match between now has-been wrestler Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
You make him back it over there.
That scene where he's standing up to Andre the Giant and he's looking up at him. Mm-hmm. They do that with Hugo and Alex in the game.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I always thought that was funny. I never understood it until someone pointed it out online. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Japanese love them some Andre the Giant, man, and Hulk Hogan, I guess, but not to the same extent.
I don't know about now.
Yeah, who knows? But dang.
But so KOF 12 and 13. 12, I can only give it so much because unfortunately the gameplay was absolute crap in that game. We're talking
animation here, though. I mean,
we're talking animation. And animation-wise, it was very impressive. And I think part of the reason for that was because we went through, 11 games with technically the same sprites with tweaks here and there, which is fine because at least SNK cared enough to add those frames of animation to the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But on the surface, they look the same.
Yeah. If you want a real crash course on the evolution of KOF. I would say play 95, 98, 2000, and then 13, and then 14, obviously, because it's different. Well, like, if you just never played King of Fighters before and you kind of just want to watch a game series like evolve right before your eyes, I would go through those 5.
Yeah. They look very different from each other in terms of graphics and animation. More so animation than graphics. Although, once you get to 13, expect to be blown away because 13 looks amazing.
13, yeah. The fact that they didn't stick with it either always surprises me, and I guess they just felt like nobody wanted that anymore. But the animation, and it's not even just the character animation, like all the animation in the backgrounds is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it distractingly so, but it's still amazing. Some of it's a little over-animated, right. I will say. But it is just amazing how much they were able to fit in that game and without affecting the gameplay at all. Because again, fighting games are all based on, frames of animation. How many frames you've got for, before you get to hit stun, and how many frames you've got, to block and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's all important. The fact that they were able to fit all that in is just a feat right. of SNK magic.
Yeah, and forget the other point I was trying to make. From what I understand, the characters, like, it was a long process to get these characters to look the way they did. It wasn't a simple, just, hand-drawn animation and, alright, that's good to go. Like, apparently, they built models of these characters and then, like, drew them in great detail before they converted them to pixels. And so it sounds like a long, tedious process. So, like, when you get, like, you can tell, in KOF 13, where it was kind of like, okay, we're only going to do this much. We're going to transfer these characters from KOF 12 and whatnot. But then, Psyche, if you play him as a normal character, it's just Ash sprite swap. And same thing with Wajai. It's a sprite swap and with, like, different animations. But it's like, okay, you can tell where they were kind of like, okay, we're done. We can't do any more. I mean, even the last boss, the actual last boss of the game, is just a shadow version of Ash. Because the mid boss, which would normally be a mid boss, is about the only thing they got that looked original as far as when you get towards the end of the game.
Right. That's weird. I remember the last boss looking completely different. I thought it was like a big dude.
Yeah, it was Psyche again, but he's buffed up. He has absorbs Mukai's power and becomes all big and naked for some reason and whatnot.
Because it's a last boss, they gotta be naked, Gil.
Well, yeah, right. And no, but this guy is naked, like freaking butt ass naked. So they just decide not to show his genitalia.
He's an angel.
But what I had read was, like, originally they had planned on having a Shin Orochi as the last boss. And I guess that was scrapped because the whole idea for that storyline was to resurrect the Orochi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so, like, when I heard that, I was like, well, yeah, then that makes sense.
Right.
But, with the process I read and having to do that, and I'm sure they were facing time constraints and they really wanted to make up for KOF 12, they probably just said, fuck it, we'll just make Ash the last boss.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's my thought on it.
No, I could see how that would be why, because that storyline is kind of confusing at times. I still have trouble following it.
Because because this whole time it's like, okay, I thought they were trying to revive Orochi, and they even mention it in KOF 13. I will do this for Orochi, blah blah blah, and the whole idea was to resurrect him, and it never happens.
Right. And it didn't help that I didn't know who a lot of these characters were in the background that aren't playable in the game. Like a lot of
they're never playable.
Yeah, a lot of his little followers. Like, I don't know who these people are. Are they significant? What's going on here? And like the girl with the big curls in her hair, and like, who are they? Aren't they like Rugel's kids or something weird? Like,
Oh yeah, no, that guy, Adele. He's Rugal's son. And
who's the girl with the big curls in her hair? She looks almost like Karen.
She's not a fighter. She's just her. That's his sister.
But not Rugal's daughter.
She's like. No, it is Rugal's daughter, but she's Adele is more of a what do you call? He's a good sportsman. Mm-hmm. He fights for the challenge, and he tries to fight fair and whatnot. But his sister is like Rugal,
right?
So she's power hungry and just wants everything for herself. And in KOF 13, she is being used by one of Psyche's followers to so that they can go ahead and resurrect Orochi, which again never happens because that would have taken too long to model and animate, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. And then they just decided to cut out the middleman.
Pretty much.
It's fine.
Because at one point you even think that Mukai is going to be a mid-boss. I'm like, oh, cool, this hasn't happened before. Mid-boss, last boss from another game as a mid-boss, so the 0 doesn't count because that whole clone shit was bullshit.
Less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
Hey, clone story.
But I was like, oh, cool. Oh, no, he's just going to kill him. But I will say, as the last thing, that even the cutscenes were, as brief as they were, had some minor animations in it, and you would think that you were watching a cartoon with all the movement that was going on in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of that did look real nice. Like when she's announcing the tournament to everybody at the beginning, she's doing like a press conference or whatever. A lot of the stuff with Psyche is really good.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Check it out. Get into it, guys. Go play it. Let us know what else you like. If you like animation in a game, you like a game with animation, good graphics, tell us. Come tweet at us at CrossPlat Show. That's where you can send us your 140 characters of goodness or badness, I guess. I don't know. And we may or may not respond to you. Who knows? Who cares? You can also join our Facebook group at facebook.com/crossplatform show. And of course, you can always do the old tried and true, never give up email, crossplatformshow@gmail.com. If you're listening to us for the first time, hey, welcome aboard. We love having you here. If you're on SoundCloud, you can, of course, leave comments on the show there. We got one recently that I couldn't read, but it had something to do with I enjoyed dancing in front of camera. It fun. Something along those lines. I don't know what that means,
yes, that one.
But enjoy your thing. And but you can leave other comments, maybe hopefully based more on what we talked about there. You can timestamp those comments, which I always think is an interesting feature. And of course, you can always subscribe to our RSS feed right there. Yes.
Before you finish. All right. I just came across some breaking news.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It just showed up on my Facebook feed.
You heard it here first, folks.
So Capcom. Not necessarily, but I'm just reading this off of an article.
All right.
Capcom teases Street Fighter surprises likely coming at E3 or Comic-Con. Saying here, Capcom is planning a surprise for its Street Fighter fans to celebrate the 30th Yoshinori Ono hinted at E3 2017 and Comic-Con reveals. Hold on one moment. I want to get the source because I want to PlayStationLifestyle.net. That's where this is where the news is coming from. 30th anniversary celebrations have already kicked off with Capcom announcing Ultra Street Fighter 2 for the recently unveiled Nintendo Switch. He also reminded fans that the developer is still updating Street Fighter 5, which will get its Season 2 content this year. So yeah,
this still confuses me.
Yeah, because wasn't it supposed to be non-paid stuff? So I question that.
Right.
But here's the little hinty stuff. All
right, gossip from the biz. Lay it on us.
Well, okay, and then the last thing here says IGN points out that that those who played Dead Rising 4 on Xbox One found some rival school Easter eggs, prompting them to ask if we'll see something pertaining to the classic fighting game, which we had just talked about earlier. Unfortunately, Ono said, "I'll let you know that the surprises this year are not going to be rival schools," but then people have lied in the past before, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if Ono would lie, though. He's that real crazy guy that always comes out during Capcom presentations.
Isn't he the one trying to get Darkstalkers 4?
Probably. If you watch the Treehouse Live section about Ultra Street Fighter 4, he's the guy that's there. The Japanese guy.
I see.
That's him. That's Ono. So, very popular guy.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's most likely him wanting to do Darkstalkers. So there you go. Breaking news right before we ended it. Anytime news breaks, day or night, we'll get it to you. And we'll get it to you on our RSS feed, which is, of course, on the SoundCloud. If you go to our page, soundcloud.com/gaming_tangents. You can subscribe to our podcast there. You can also subscribe to it on iTunes. Leave a comment. Google Podcasts. Leave a comment. And, of course, we're on Stitcher Radio. Leave a comment. I don't know. And pretty much anywhere podcasts exists, I think we have reached out our tentacles as far as they can go. So grab it, get a hold of it. And if you want to listen to any of our back catalog episodes, you can find all or most of them on our YouTube page. Just search for Gaming Tangents Podcast and we will come up. And subscribe to our pages if you could as well. Please, more stuff will be coming in the later months, not just the podcasts, but cross-platform show, which this is the official podcast of. I think I've forgotten to mention that lately, is coming along the way, and possibly some other little shows and things and stuff. So lots of fun to be had in the future. Maverick, it is late.
Don't do drugs.
I'll
come up with something better this year.
Shaking my head. It's your Gaming Tangents resolution. Stop quoting Eminem.
Oh, yeah, because I'm such a heavy drug user.
Yeah.
No, just let's call it. Just look forward to a lot this year. I didn't really get to mention it, but I have some ideas I'm tossing around myself and whatnot, and hopefully they'll come to fruition. Just all depends on time. There have been some changes at work that may allow me to actually work on some extra projects, so we'll see how that goes.
Idea fruition! That's what we're all about here. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Next week, we were kicking around the idea of maybe doing a bit of a retrospective on the Master System. Maybe we'd do
Quite
that.
Possibly.
Maybe we'd look forward to
Quite
that.
possibly.
You don't even know what the Master System is. Tune in. We're going to tell you. Some of us may have some first-hand experience in this field of Master Systemology. And we can tell you a thing or two. Or three.
Yes, we will.
That's going to be next week. All right. I think that's locked in. That's good. All right. See, we're planning ahead now. Things are getting back on track. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the Gaming Tangents Podcast. As always, I remind you to please keep on running and jumping.
Keep platforming, everyone.
And we will see you all next week. The end.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bum.
Would you like to play again? You have selected no.